welcome back. It's Maylani from Why Not Me B&B, and this is our last module, okay? Now, we've talked about so much great stuff, and I really hope that we'll be able to connect after this. Reach out to me on Facebook, reach out to me on YouTube, reach out to our customer service, whatever it is. I'd love to stay in contact and hear about your successes. And if you reach out to me, then we can also just reach out. We'd love to talk to you, okay? Now, we've gone through this whole path. We've gone through evaluating and pricing. We've gone through hunting for prices. We've got properties. We've gone through prepping the property, pricing, building your team, scaling, building your business. There's so much more in detail that is out there, okay? As we talk about this, you've heard me say over and over again, if you work smart and you set up your systems right, you will be successful. This is not risk-free, okay? I want to make sure that you know that this is not risk-free. However, it is tried and tested and so much more risk and leverage than rehabbing or wholesaling. Okay. Now, I do have an online course that if you are interested, let us know. We'll hook you up with a discount where we have all the things that we talked about, the email templates, their contracts, the addendums, the analyzers, the projection sheets that really go through to see how much you can project to make, how much you can, so you can know how much you would spend in setting up a property, all those different things. And that's valued at over $5,000, but contact us and we'll make sure you ask for the Propelio discount, and we'll be able to hook you up with the best discount we've had in the last 90 days we give to our Propelio customers. So reach out to us and just say, hey, I want the Propelio discount. What can I get? And then we'll see what we can offer for you, okay? But there's so much more that the thing is like I talked about before, this isn't like rehabbing or wholesaling that's been going on for 30, 50, whatever years. This is a live event. This is a live industry. With this niche it's going to be outdated tomorrow. It's going to be outdated the next day. And so when they asked me to come and do this, I said, yes, of course. However, this is a growing thing. Like I'd have to come back every week to add more stuff. So instead I add that into my course. So if you're interested, awesome. But stick around because we've got a couple more things that I want to talk about, okay? If you're also interested, you can look into our book, our blog, our podcast, our YouTube channel. I'd love to come and speak at big events in your area. Or if you're interested in being an affiliate and learning more about that, how you can make money from my work as an Airbnb host, let me know. If you have a podcast or anything, I'd love to be a guest so we can talk more about it. Okay, but here are my 3 tips for happy hosting. Okay, this is my farewell to you. Trust the system. Only go back to your property on your timeline. Don't let fires come up and you have to be the fireman. Figure out ways to make it so it's as passive as possible. If somebody says, I don't see an iron here, I don't see a blow dryer, please do not go to the store, buy a blow dryer and go deliver it. Hop on Amazon and see if something can be delivered later that afternoon. Figure out ways to work around so you're not going to your property every time something comes up, okay? Set up systems, okay? Also, don't stress about your calendar, okay? But go back and check on it every once in a while, okay? So I say don't stress about your calendar, but make sure you're going back to check on it to make sure it's where you want it to be, that you're getting as many bookings as you want, making sure that you're in that 80 to 90% occupancy rate, okay? You might need to alter your base price a little bit to make sure that it's where you want it to be in whatever algorithm you're using, or also in Airbnb. Also, turn off your notifications. Once you've set up a system with Guesty, turn off the notifications so you're not seeing every single time somebody's asking about the Wi-Fi password. You're only seeing it when Guesty comes to you and says, we have an emergency, we need you to help, okay? So be as involved as you want, but I recommend taking it off. Another story about my dad. He'll often call me and say, oh, did you see this? We got a booking. Dad, I didn't. I'm sorry. It just happens automatically and my team handles that. He's like, oh yeah, we got a booking. And then sometimes he'll call me and be like, the other day he called me, oh no, what are we going to do about this family? I said, what do you mean? I was pulling it up on my phone and he's telling me about it because he watches it. He likes the notifications. He's mid-70s and he likes it. And so I'm looking at it, and sure enough, there were 2 people that were like, oh, I really want the property. I really want the property. Well, the first one that booked got it. And my dad was like, what are we going to do about this other family? And I was like, well, Dad, I'm sure they're going to find somewhere else to stay, I think. But my dad was so worried about it. And so he's like, well, can we look at our other properties? I was like, well, Dad, that's what our team does. If we have another property available, they put them over there. And he's like, oh, man. Anyway, so it's just really cute how involved he wants to be. And I said, Dad, maybe it's time for us to turn off your notifications. And he said, well, you have two options. If you either keep my notifications on and I get excited about every time somebody books one of my houses, or I come and spend 12 hours a day at your house with your kids. And I said, well, let's keep your notifications on. I think that's a great idea. Now, of course, I love my dad and I'd love to have him with me all the time, especially if he's playing with my kids. But that was his way of saying, it brings me joy. And if it brings you joy to see all those notifications and see all the great responses, then keep it on. But just make sure that you know that it's what you want. Create your perfect day. And how does that Airbnb hosting fit into your perfect day? Not the other way around. So it's not controlling you, you're controlling it, okay? Also, make sure that you're setting it up right the first time. Okay, sometimes, you know how I told you about my mom that she set it up and she's like, it's good enough. I still got to figure out how I'm going to make this perfect, and then we'll have the photographer come back. Don't do that. Just set it up right the first time, and so that you hopefully don't have to come back to that property for a long time, but you're going to let your team do it. Okay, next. Don't waste time going to properties until you know they are interested, or else you will burn out. We talked about that enough that I feel like I don't have to go through that, okay? So let's go to trust the system. Number 2, always have a plan B, okay? We talked about it a little bit. Here are the 3 things we're going to talk about with having a plan B. 1, we talked about having an emergency lockbox. Have a hotspot in case their internet goes out. Have fans in case the air conditioning goes out. All those things that you need to be ready with a plan B. Also, Penny Lane, this was a property that I really wanted. It was on 3 acres. I was going to build tiny house cabins. I had all these different dreams of how I was going to make this amazing. And it was one house, but separated into like 4 different units. And it was going to be awesome. And it was going to be a cash cow, like amazing. I was so excited about it. However, you know me and risk. And so I wanted to look, okay, well, worst case scenario, if for some reason the city changes the ordinances, how are we going to be able to rent this out, and is it going to still be in a good investment? And I looked at the numbers and it didn't really make sense, but it was close, but not great. And then I went to another one and I was like, okay, well, I went to the next thing on my checklist and I said, okay, if I ever needed to resell this house, how would that look? Well, at looking closer to this house, it was going to be an amazing Airbnb with at least 4 different streams of income on it. And I was so excited about it. However, they couldn't find a septic permit on file and actually didn't even know if there was a septic. Also, those 4 different units, only the main house was permitted. The other 3 weren't. And as we started evaluating more and more and more, this was kind of a terrible house for resale purposes. So even though it made sense as an Airbnb, if it doesn't make sense as a plan B, then you might not want to do it, okay? That risk is on you. But for me, who doesn't like risk, I had to say farewell to Penny Lane. It makes me want to sing the song because I miss Penny Lane. But I really wanted it to work out, but if it doesn't have a good plan B, then it wasn't for me, okay? So just be prepared for that. Also, like we said, stay away from HOAs in the beginning unless you're really ready to take that on, okay? The last one, my 3rd tip for happy hosting is find joy in hosting. Avoid burnout, make sure that you're setting up the systems, and find ways to make it your hobby and not your job. Find ways to make it what you love. My dad, for him, that's looking at all the messages that come through. For me, that's having it be as passive as possible, but sometimes I also get more involved. Let me give you an example. So this is what I call the dark side of Airbnb hosting. Here's a story for you, and I have lots of good stories that I share in my course, but those are all just like the random dark side stories, you know, the hard things that come up with it. But all of them end up being kind of funny, anyways. I mean, people smoking weed and flushing it down your toilet and clogging it, or you know, people often ask. Let me just address it real quick about what if somebody has a party in your house? Yeah, people have parties in hotels all the time. This isn't like shaking news, right? So yeah, there might be a party, even though the rules outlaw it. So make sure that you have a security deposit that Airbnb takes care of, and you have 14 days to make a claim on it. If there's a hole in a wall, I've had a hole in my wall, I called and make a claim, and my insurance, plus the Airbnb insurance, plus the security deposit that the customer had put in, that covered it. Okay, so anyway, so those are there are dark sides to Airbnb hosting, but I can tell you they are far outweighed by how great and passive and easy it is to get going. But for this, the story that I share here is so I love watching, like, my favorite movies, like The Bourne Identity, right? And all the Bourne movies, really. And at one time I was watching this intense, like, spy thriller, and my husband was out of town, and because he travels for work sometimes, and my husband was out of town, but I was like watching it by myself. I don't know why I do this, and my 5 kids are asleep, and I'm like watching this movie, and I'm like so into it. And all of a sudden it's like 10 o'clock at night, and I get this phone call, and I'm like, oh my gosh, who is this? And I answer it, and it's like this thick, like, Russian accent, and he says, is this Melanie? And I said, what? Yes. And I said, what? Who? What? Like, I was so thrown off because it was late and it was during my scary movie, and I said, is this Melanie? And I said, yes, this is Melanie. And he said, do you have the package? Do I have the package? Like, at first I was like, oh my gosh, is it my husband? Is he teasing me? Like, does he know he's out of town, so I'm probably watching a scary movie and he's teasing me right now? Like, I'm looking at the phone like, no, this isn't his number. And he's like, this is Sergey from Russia. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm totally Sydney Bristow in Alias. Like, I'm being recruited by the CIA. They want me to take care of something. They're sending me a package. He knows my name. I'm like on the border of like freaked out, but like, this is my time to shine as a CIA agent or whatever I've been called to do. So I keep talking to Sergey from Russia, and he keeps talking. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm waking up and I'm getting out of my trance of watching my movie, and Sergey starts saying, I'm coming to your city tomorrow. And I said, okay, do I want to meet this man? Is he scary? I have no idea. Guys, it started to piece together, and I realized I had a Sergey checking into one of my Airbnbs the next day. And sure enough, I pull it up on my account, Sergey from Russia, and he was simply asking if I had a package that had been delivered to the property yet. So I get my wits about me, and I say, Sergey, I'm so sorry, it's really late here. I haven't checked the mail, but we can check the mail tomorrow when you check in. We'll be able to handle that. So I went to bed. My days as a CIA agent were brief, but I went to bed. Well, the next morning I'm at the gym, and I get a message from the tenant that is in that property at about 7:30 or 8 in the morning. And the current tenant says, hey, your next guests are here, and they're sitting on our couch. Sitting on our couch. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I look and see what property it is, and I was like, Sergey. So I checked about it, and sure enough, I called Sergey, same guy from last night, my Russian spy friend, and Sergey is like, oh, that's okay. They say they're about to leave. I was like, because you're kicking them out of their location. And so I was getting so mad at Sergey. Like, I was ready. Oh, Sergey, I'm going to get you. And I was going to come and bring him his package in person instead of making him get it. Like, I was going to show him, like, this is not how it works here, Sergey. You do not freak me out in the middle of the night, and you do not come and impede on my other guests. Luckily, the other guests were really cool about it. And we're like, actually, we thought it was kind of funny. Like, he's got a funny Russian accent. Like, we talked. He was cool. I was like, no, like, this is inappropriate, and I am going to tell Sergey no. Okay. Well, I go to talk to Sergey, and I'm ready. I'm ready to go and just like be tough, like bring it on, right? So I go and I talk to him, and I knock on the door, and he opens, and it's like this super cute little girl. And he has these 3 kids that are like adorable, cute little Russians just running around the house. And they say, each of them come and gives me a hug. And then Sergey announces all of them. It's kind of like, I don't know, Captain Von Trapp in The Sound of Music was like, come meet our host. And like, they all lined up, and they were so cute. I wanted to be so mad at Sergey, but he was actually awesome. And one of my kids, while I was in there, was out in the car, and he ended up coming in, and one of the little girls ended up like falling in love with him. And so this is the cute little daughter that had some balloons that he gave to my son and said that she wanted an American boyfriend and that he has been chosen to be her American boyfriend. And as we were talking more and more to my Russian spy friend, Sergey, who became from my enemy to my friend, I said, hey, would you guys like to come over for dinner on Sunday? And they said, yes. And so we had their family over for dinner. And as this woman was leaving, she said, Melanie, I've always dreamed of bringing my children to America. I've always dreamed that they would get to know how it felt to be an American. But I never in a million years dreamed that I'd be able to sit at a table with an American family and eat in their home. You guys, it was one of the most beautiful moments of my Airbnb career, of having that bonding and letting that family feel the local spirit and the local love. But also my 5 kids sat and asked them questions about Russia and what they ate, where they lived. Of course, it was also a little bit of the most awkward because their English was quite terrible, but it was such a beautiful experience as this mother is leaving and crying and thanking me. And I thought, man, I have the coolest job. I have the coolest investment ever. Flipping never got me this. Wholesaling never got me this. But as an Airbnb host, you get to choose how involved you wanted to be. And so since then, we've taken the opportunity of when we see somebody from a cool location, we'll see if they want to come and hang out, if it works with our schedule. So I want to make sure that you are finding joy in hosting. Do not burn out, but find ways to have joy in this. Now, if you've ever read The 4-Hour Work Week, you might have heard this story, or it's been floating around as well. But there's a story about an American businessman who is way burned out. He's way stressed. And so his doctor says, you need to go take a vacation, go somewhere. So he goes to a small Mexican village, and he comes across one day on his morning walk, he comes across a fisherman. And the fisherman has caught quite a few fish. And when the businessman says, what do you do for the rest of the day? Are you going to go out and get more? And he said, no, I think I'm done. I'm just going to go sell this. Then I'm going to go spend time with my kids. I'm going to maybe take a nap. And then I'm going to hang out with my wife and my friends and drink wine and play the guitar. And the businessman was like, oh, really? Well, are you sure? Are you sure? Because I could teach you. I could teach you how to build your business so big. I could teach you how to turn that few fish that I can tell you're really good at what you do. I could teach you how to make more money and get lots of fish and get more boats. And then we'll make you even more famous. And the Mexican fisherman's like, okay, and then what? And he said, and then maybe you could take your company public and we'll get so big. We'll make fish sticks. We'll do all these different things. And the Mexican fisherman was like, okay, and then what? And the American businessman said, well, and then you'll make so much money that then you'll be able to retire. And he's like, oh, wow, and then what? And the American businessman said, well, then you'll be able to hang out with your kids, you'll be able to take naps, and you'll be able to hang out with your wife and friends and drink wine and play guitar. Now, how many of us in real estate are so busy that we forget to take advantage of the now, and we forget to enjoy the process? Are we becoming the American businessman that's so fixated on becoming big, becoming huge, that we forget that we want to create a life that we don't need a vacation from? That's why I left my 9-to-5 job. You remember this story about my sweet little girl and how she had set the goal of getting scissors to do what she wanted to do. And then she had a timeout. Remember my ambition hangover? Remember when I was literally throwing up in the toilet because I was so nauseous about the amount of money I had lent out, and different things were causing us from selling these homes. I look back and I think, what if I would have stopped then when I was sick and tired of leveraging money? I think back to, what if I would have just stayed in that dark hospital room and would have stayed at my 9-to-5 job? I would have missed out on so much, I think about how different my life would be if I wouldn't have gotten into real estate investing, or if I would have stayed in flipping houses, or if I would have stayed in wholesaling or long-term rentals. But you guys, I know that when you invest in real estate, there's a reason. You have a why. I've shown you my why, and there's a lot more to that, of course. But the way to provide the lifestyle that you want to provide, you've got to remember that, Tony Robbins has a quote, and he says, people usually overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they can do in a decade. It wasn't that long ago. It was almost about 6 years ago when I was in that hospital room, trying not to slip into postpartum depression again, trying to figure out how I was going to help my family and my son who was struggling with cancer to a brighter world. Was I going to just keep going to my 9-to-5 job? Or was I going to find a way to create the life that I didn't need a vacation from, to create that time and passive income? You guys, Airbnbs are the way to get into real estate with such a low entry, such a low amount of cost to get in. It's so easy. I hope you'll get in. I hope you'll connect with us. I hope you'll listen to our podcast. I hope you'll look at our YouTube station. I hope you'll look for me on Facebook or Instagram. And if you want any of the materials that we've talked about or full access to our lifetime course, then message us and make sure you let us know that you're part of the Propelio team, and we'll be glad to hook you up. I've really enjoyed our time together, and I hope you learned a lot. Please reach out to me and connect. I'd love to hear your feedback. And also, I would love to work with you in the future. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.